Welcome to Dcode, the question physics never answers. Why reality is probability, not objects. We were taught that reality is made of things, particles, objects, solid stuff moving through space. But modern physics tells a very different story. The deeper we look, the less thing-like reality becomes. In this series, we're not going to add more mystery. We're going to remove the wrong assumptions. Because the problem isn't that reality is strange. The problem is that we're still trying to understand it. As objects. Why particles fail? Let's start with particles. Electrons, quarks, protons. Physics once thought they were tiny, solid points. Then we discovered they behave like waves. Then we discovered they are vibrations of fields. And now we're forced to admit something uncomfortable. Particles don't actually exist as objects. What we call a particle is a momentary stabilization of a probability pattern. During interaction, a local pattern. Something that appears solid only when interaction is dense enough to make it persist. Between interactions, there is no object. There is only probability. So the failure of particles is not an experimental problem. It's a conceptual one. Reality was never made of things. Why superposition is not a paradox. You've heard this before. A particle is here and there, alive and dead, up and down. That sounds absurd. But that absurdity comes from a mistake. Superposition is not many realities stacked together. It is one reality. With unresolved probability, reality hasn't chosen yet. Not because it's confused, but because interaction hasn't forced a resolution. There aren't multiple objects. There are multiple possible continuations of the same existence pattern. An interaction doesn't collapse reality. It stabilizes one trajectory. That's why, when we observe a superposition, the outcome becomes predictable. Not because reality changed, but because probability became constrained. Why measurement does not create reality. Quantum mechanics is often misunderstood here. People hear the word observer and think consciousness. That's wrong. Reality doesn't wait for you to look at it. Particles around us are already interacting with everything. Light is interacting. Atoms are exchanging information. There is nothing in this universe without interaction. So measurement is not creation. Measurement is constraint. A constraint on probability patterns? Reality is constantly negotiating probability. Through interaction, nothing mystical, nothing magical. Just patterns becoming stable enough to persist. Why entanglement is misunderstood. Let's explain entanglement without mystery. When two particles become entangled, they do not form two independent probability patterns. They form one combined probability structure. This is the key point most explanations miss. That combined probability does not disappear. When the particles separate in space, distance does not break it. Because what's shared is not location. What's shared is probability structure. As long as that combined probability remains coherent, any interaction with one particle feeds back into the shared pattern. So when we interact with one particle, we are not sending information to the other. We are interacting with the combined probability that already includes both. That interaction forces the probability to stabilize in a particular way. And because the probability is shared, the stabilization applies to the whole system. That's why the other particle's outcome is constrained. not because it was influenced later, but because it was never probabilistically independent. Now here's the crucial part. Entanglement is fragile. The moment either particle interacts too strongly with the environment, the combined probability structure can no longer reinforce itself. Environmental interactions introduce noise. They bias probability. They destroy the delicate interference that keeps the probabilities linked. This does not collapse reality. It breaks coherence. It turns one shared probability pattern into two separate, locally stable ones. That's why measurement breaks entanglement. Measurement is not special. Measurement is just strong, irreversible interaction. So entanglement is not spooky. It's not communication. It's not faster than light influence. It's what happens when reality is described correctly as probability patterns that only appear separate. Once coherence is lost, entanglement doesn't show that particles are connected across space. It shows that separateness itself is conditional. Why fluctuation is unavoidable? Now we reach the core. Physics still asks, why do fluctuations exist at all? Why isn't reality frozen? Here's the answer. A perfectly static probability pattern is indistinguishable from non-existence. No fluctuation means no time. No variation means no persistence. No vibration means no reality. Fluctuation is not noise. Fluctuation is the minimum condition for existence. This is why fields vibrate. This is why uncertainty exists. This is why reality moves. Why the universe had structure. Early in the universe, probability was not uniform. Tiny fluctuations existed. Those fluctuations grew into galaxies, stars, and planets. If the universe had been perfectly smooth, nothing would have formed. No structure, no life, no observers. Existence requires unevenness. Structure is stabilized probability. The fate of the universe. What if the universe is not moving toward nothing, but toward the most stable probability pattern it can sustain? Every particle, every field, every structure is a probability pattern trying to stabilize. Interactions reinforce these patterns. They create feedback. That feedback makes the pattern more likely to persist. That's why particles appear stable. That's why atoms form. That's why galaxies exist. But stabilization is never perfect. Fluctuation never disappears. Because fluctuation is not a flaw. Fluctuation is the condition for existence. As time goes on, interactions reduce usable fluctuations. Energy gradients flatten. Structures lose coherence. Complexity fades. This is what we call the death of the universe. But here's the key point. The universe does not eliminate fluctuation. It approaches a minimum positive level of fluctuation. Enough for time to exist. Enough for probability to evolve. Not enough for structure to form. The universe is not trying to become static. It is trying to become as stable as possible, without ceasing to exist. Because the moment fluctuation truly stops, there is no time, no change, no probability, and therefore no universe. So the future of the universe is not annihilation. It is neutralized difference, sustained by unavoidable fluctuation, existence balanced, on the edge of stillness. What physics calls probability, biology calls adaptation, neuroscience calls perception, and consciousness calls experience. They are not separate mysteries. They are different expressions of the same underlying rule. Existence is a pattern that must change to continue. This is Dcode, and this is not about believing something new. It's about removing assumptions that no longer survive reality